Hi, this is Karl with another Relax, Focus, Succeed video. Today I want to talk about one of my maxims for getting through life with a lot less stress. And it is simply, remember that silence means nothing. Here's what I mean. Very often we find ourselves in a situation where we've sent communication to somebody and we don't hear back. Or we ask somebody a question and they said, I'll get back to you, and they don't, right? Or you're waiting for someone and they just don't show up. So those are situations where there might be something going on and you might have concerns about it in your brain, and you might have experiences in the past that make you think a certain way, and you might have worries about the future that make you think about certain things. But ultimately, you have to focus on what you do know and what you don't know. And it doesn't help in those situations to worry about the past, bring all that into this experience, or worry about the future and your fears and bring those into the current situation. There's an example that everybody has. I know that you have sent an email, or maybe you sent a quote to a client, or sent an email with somebody with an important question, and they don't get back, and they don't get back, and they don't get back. And you're like, oh, well, what's going on? And you have all these stories in your head. Oh, they're kind of completely turned me down. They've found somebody else. They got an alternative. The answer is definitely going to be no, or whatever. It's going to go the way you don't want it to. And that is sort of a negative writing of the future when you don't have any basis for it. Silence means nothing. And very often you've had this experience. You send that email, silence, 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 silence. And then when they get back to you, they say, oh, sorry about that. My left tire went out. I can't even believe it. I had to change the tire, and it was blah, blah. Or my kid answered, or, called me, or whatever. And right. There's always some reason for what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, or maybe 99 times out of 100, whatever you were worrying about in your brain is not the reason that they didn't get back to you. Normally, there's a pretty normal excuse. And I've had this situation where I'm waiting for somebody. We agree we're going to meet at a certain place, certain time. They don't show, they don't show, they don't show. I'm like, okay. And I remember one very clearly, that I was like, man, I absolutely, what's going on? No email, no communication, no text message, no nothing. Well, turns out it was a family situation that had to be taken care of and had nothing to do with me. And, it would have been nice if the person said, hey, you're not going to make it, whatever. But it didn't mean anything about our relationship. It didn't mean anything about, anything that was going on in my head, or any of the stories that I have told myself. Now, ultimately, one of the big things that I also like to encourage people to do is to focus on what you know and what you don't know. And it takes a certain amount of mindfulness to look at a situation and say, all right, I'm getting silence. What do I know about that? Well, I can speculate. They're not going to sign the contract. They're not going to get back to me. There's a problem with the relationship, right? You can speculate all you want, but you don't actually know anything, because all you have experienced is a delay in communication. Now, if there's a well-trodden path and a delay in communication never, ever, ever, ever happens, and you have some reason to believe that something is different or something is wrong, well, then you might, legitimately think about what else it could be, but don't worry about it. Because again, most of the time, right, in what I just described, they never, never, never put you in that situation. Well, there's always the one in a million. Things happen. Silence means nothing. And time again, I find myself literally multiple times a year, I remind myself of this because I'm not getting the response I want in the time I want. Remember, when you initiate communication, especially if there's a question, your brain is sort of primed to get the answer. And in our modern society, you want it right now, right now, right now, because we want everything right now. Well, sometimes you don't get to have right now. Sometimes you just have to wait till somebody comes back to you and gives you the answer or the feedback or whatever it is. Silence means nothing. This really will help you have less stress. And the way that you practice is very, very straightforward. Just when something happens, you're thinking, oh, I wonder what's going on, and you start to do that spiral, just say to yourself, stop, close your eyes. What do I know? What do I not know? Right? What's that line? And remember, Mark Twain once said, of all the things I worried about, most of them never happened, right? So don't worry. Worry is always a waste of time. Your brain spends too much time in the past. And the less you can put the past into the current situation, the happier you're going to be. The brain also speculates about the future, which it absolutely cannot control. And so that's not a good waste of time either. So think of, if you're planning or whatever, you're scheduling something, or you're planning something for your family, or planning something for your business, fine, think about the future. But if it's just the day-to-day operations, there's nothing you can do about your trip home today, or your communication, or an email that's going to be answered an hour or 2 hours or a day later. Many, many times I've sent a quote to a client and got silence. And then literally like 4 days later, I get a note that says, oh, you know what? I had to take a couple of days off. I'm back now. It's all going to be good. I'll get back to you this afternoon. Like that sort of thing happens all the time. And if you think about it, it's probably exactly the experience that you have had. So try to have that perspective that what I'm hearing is silence. And every time you say to yourself, silence, I'm hearing silence, I wish they would communicate. Remember, silence means nothing. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. The outcome is beyond your control. And so wasting the minutes now worrying about a future you cannot control is never a good use of your time. Go do something else. Try to put it out of your mind. But at a minimum, do not worry about it. That never leads to a positive result. I'd love your comments and feedback. For Relax, Focus, Succeed, this is Karl Palachuk, wishing you the best of luck in everything you do.